Hello everybody, this is Amber from Lovefit, and I am going to talk today about diastasis recti. So this is the abdominal separation in your tummy muscles. And basically thought I'd do this little vlog because I have been asked this a lot, and certainly while I was away on holiday I had a couple of questions coming in from some of my postnatal ladies. And one lady asked me, I'm 8 months postnatal and I still have a discernible gap in my abdominals. What am I doing wrong? What exercises should I do to bring it back together? Help. And then a few other people chimed in and said, oh, me too, I'm 9 months, and all the rest of it. So to answer this question, and I thought I'd put this out to the wider audience. Okay, this is a big old subject, but basically the tummy gap is not the be all and end all. So I want to make it clear that by saying that, the caveat is I'm not saying that if you do have a diastasis, a separation of your abdominals, I'm not saying that if you do have that, you should just ignore anything I've ever said before and that you don't need to worry at all. But we need to lose the focus on just obsessing about the size or the presence of a gap in isolation. And we need to look at the bigger picture. So what I always say to my women, especially when I'm working one-to-one with ladies, if there is an abdominal separation, there are many other things that I take into consideration. So if I check a woman for diastasis and she has a separation, and let's say that's sort of 3 or 4 fingers wide and it's quite long, you know, coming all the way from her belly button up or a long way down, and when I'm feeling her connective tissue, it feels quite soft, there's not much resistance. And then she tells me that she's leaking a little bit, sometimes when she walks, or maybe when she laughs or sneezes, or all of the above. And when I do various other tests that I do with my one-to-one clients, if I notice that her tummy bulges up, that if she coughs, there's a visible kind of puff out of her tummy, if she's experiencing back pain, or pelvic pain, any of these things, or some of these things, then yes, the gap is an issue. It almost certainly is part of this global thing going on, and it's almost certainly part of the reason she is getting some incontinence, some downward pressure, some back pain. I say any or all of those factors. If, however, I check a woman and she does have a separation, maybe even, you know, still a couple of fingers, but her abdominals feel tense, if I feel her and I'm getting good tension down her midline, that's this, you know, the line that runs down your tummy, you can't really see here, and if she's not experiencing pain in her back, if she's not kind of getting any doming of her tummy, if she doesn't feel downward pressure when she walks fast or maybe tries to jog a little bit or any of these things, then that gap is probably not really much of an issue, and it's not something to get hung up on. Now, just to kind of backtrack slightly, so yeah, let's say you feel like you're functioning well, you know, you're not leaking, you're not peeing, you're not getting the urge to pee all the time, you're not getting heaviness in your pelvic floor, you aren't experiencing back pain that's unusual for you, and you do feel a separation in your tummy, then I'm not saying, yeah, great, go out and do all those things that I might have told you to avoid before. I'm not saying go out and do 100 sit-ups every day, because it's not going to cause you any... It's not going to bring you any benefit at all. Doing 100 sit-ups or whatever number, or doing loads of planks, is not going to reduce your gap, certainly. It's only going to increase it. It's not going to give you flat abdominals. Again, it's probably going to do the opposite if a diastasis is present, because any of those moves are going to add pressure. People always want to go back to doing these exercises because in their heads they think of them as tummy ab exercises, but those things do not a flat stomach make. I can promise you this. I know it's hard to get in people's head, but they really don't. There are so many other things you can do that will actually benefit you more in terms of helping you to lose weight, change the shape of your body, and feel good ultimately. So yeah, that's the first thing to say. Is I wouldn't say that even if you feel pretty good about all the other elements, if you do have a noticeable diastasis, I wouldn't start adding those exercises back in. Now, in terms of some of the other things like higher impact exercises and running and going back to different type of classes, then what I would say is, if you feel good, if your body is not letting you down, and you are not having any adverse effects, then try those classes, see how they go. If you want to get back into running, then go for a run, but don't go from nothing to doing a 10k. Go out for a short run, see how it feels. If during the run you don't feel any heaviness, if during the run you don't pee yourself, if afterwards you don't notice any niggles, then you're probably good to go. And that's great, because we all want to get back to doing the things we love. And in some cases, for some people, if there's been kind of severe birth trauma or major impact to the pelvic floor, then maybe you're not going to return to those exercises. But for the most part, and for pretty much everybody I'm talking to now, you will get back there. And I would just say that, yeah, don't rush into it. But I'm kind of addressing now those of you who kind of post 6 months, maybe a year, maybe even more, and are worried about this, still having this gap. So for those of you that are concerned, as I say, just to kind of recap, it's not an issue if there are no other issues. If you do have that tummy gap and you are noticing some problems, then I would really, really recommend you go and see a women's health physio and get checked out, get them to look. Perhaps there's something else going on. Perhaps there's a small prolapse. Perhaps you need just to be looked at a bit more carefully. And if you are experiencing those problems, then definitely pull back on your exercise. Don't go doing those things. Don't think just because you're 9 months postnatal that it's okay to start doing those exercises again, because if you do have that diastasis and you've got some other issues associated with it, then you don't want to be making it worse, for sure. Now, the question I always get asked is, what exercises can I do to close the gap? And the thing is, exercise in the kind of list of priorities in terms of healing a diastasis, right down the bottom. Yes, there are certain exercises I would say you should avoid. We all know them: sit-ups, crunches, bicycle legs, planks, all of those kind of things that really pressurize the abdominal wall and the pelvic floor. But there aren't that many exercises. I kind of feel like this is a false thing to say, but there aren't specific exercises you do that close a gap. There are exercises we can do with the correct breath, the correct alignment, etc., that will help your body to naturally heal and learn how to transfer load and manage pressure better. But there's not like a magic exercise you do that means it brings your tummy together, if that makes sense. So yeah, when I'm looking at a woman, I will firstly, as I say, check the tension in her abdominals as well as the actual gap. I will do some other hands-on assessments and look at how her body functions under certain pressure, like coughing, things like that. But I will also see how she manages load, what's she like when she's moving. When I get her to squat, how does she breathe? I will also watch her just breathing and see whether her tummy is rising and falling correctly. So if you do still have a diastasis, just sit quietly and take a few deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Really nice and slowly like that. And see what your tummy's doing. It should be that your tummy inflates and rises and your rib cage expands when you inhale, and that everything deflates, the rib cage comes back down, the tummy gently draws in as you exhale. If that's not working, then that's where we need to start. So that's what I'll always look at. Is the breathing good? That's a really crucial one. So I would implore any of you who are kind of later postnatal and still feel that you've got a diastasis and maybe other issues to check in with your breathing. If you're somebody that I see face to face, get me to check for you if you're not sure what you're doing. But breathing is super important. Alignment, I always go over this in my postnatal class, but making sure we're not thrusting the ribs. I'm in the car at the moment because the baby fell asleep and he's a bit jet lagged, so I didn't want to wake him up. So I can't really change the angle on here very well, but this thing of kind of standing up straight where we actually end up drawing our shoulders back and really thrusting the ribs forward is actually putting your pelvic floor under really bad alignment. And also this thing where we carry the baby on a hip and kind of stick our hip out to one side, not good for the pelvic floor and the core, and of course that diastasis. This all, it all ties in. So check in on your alignment. Are your ribs over your hips? So you're not arching your back and sticking your ribs out, but you're not slumped, you're not sticking your hips over to one side. Try and get good alignment. Breathe properly, and obviously hydrate well. Hydrate. Water is so important for healing. It's important for everyone. It's good for your health generally, and if you're breastfeeding, it will help you to replenish yourself. It doesn't necessarily increase supply per se, but it will help you to feel good. But hydration, because all of these connective tissues, you know, we need water to help your body heal. So please make sure you're drinking plenty. Sometimes some of those basics are all you need. I've had clients sort of a year postnatal with a diastasis, and then we've addressed their nutrition and their hydration. We've made sure they're breathing properly, and inevitably they weren't, and then put that breathing into their movement, into their workout, added some resistance without impact, and sure enough, their tummy has started to come together. So I know this is kind of a long-winded answer, but that's why I didn't just want to kind of write a quick reply to the lady who asked, because it's quite a big topic. So I'm going to shut up now because I can see I've been talking for over 10 minutes. But yeah, in brief, if you have a diastasis, you're later postnatal, but there are no other issues, then just make sure you're not kind of overloading the abdominal wall, doing those heavy-duty traditional ab exercises. But check your breathing, check everything, but otherwise don't get hung up on it. Yes, I know the diastasis leaves that kind of slightly rounded belly. I know all about that. I feel your pain, but in the grand scheme of life, it's not going to affect too much. If you have a diastasis and you notice some other issues, heaviness in the pelvic floor, incontinence, or just urge to pee, backache, any of these things, then definitely we want to be looking at addressing that, and probably all of those things will get better together in time. So I hope that helps. Please drop me a line if you've got any questions, and sorry for the kind of makeshift video and the lack of makeup and the tiredness, but yeah, jet lag baby and long travelling does not a healthy, happy mummy make. Anyway, I will speak to you soon, and yeah, drop me a line if you have questions about that. Bye.